My name is Koukou Sename Djagadou from Togo. I work with the Human Resource and Youth Development Division of the African Union Commission in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. I support the division's work on the demographic dividend, on country program acceleration strategy, and also issues related to adolescent and young people's health, especially their sexual reproductive health and reproductive rights.
Okay, that's great. So, Koukou, why are you at the 8th African Population Conference 2019?
Yeah, I think it's important to highlight that population issues are the key of development agenda on the continent. And you probably know about the Agenda 2063, the 50-year development plan of the AU that has the vision of an integrated, peaceful and prosperous Africa driven by its own citizens and representing a dynamic force in the global arena. So to have our development driven by our own citizens, the population or the people become the key factors of our development. So it's important for us to be here, to listen to the discussion and also bring our insight into it, also share the continental perspective and interact with the demographers, experts on how best can we drive the African continent development through investment in its people, essentially its young people.
Okay. When we were talking yesterday, you mentioned that African countries are demonstrating that there's been some progress with the DD, with some governments pointing to, for example, that there's low unemployment levels, while there's still registered high poverty levels, and little increase in GDP per capita. What's your take on the many interpretations of progress in harnessing the DD for the African countries already claiming some progress?
Yeah, it's true that we've made, or African countries have made progress from the past and from a few years ago, right? And the question is, how do we sustain this progress and how do we accelerate it in such a way that it helps us achieve our common shared vision of the continent? And in that context, it's good that we acknowledge that we've made progress. But then after that, we should ask ourselves, then what do we need to do based on the existing context? Today we are speaking this afternoon about how we can leverage on technology, right, to advance development in the continent. I think those questions should come up, and then we should see how we leverage on this technology to accelerate development on the continent, help create jobs for young people, create a friendly environment where they can actually develop entrepreneurship innovations that can be scaled up for them actually to be active contributors of the development.
Okay. Speak on why governance and accountability is the key linchpin to actualizing the DD in Africa, that then ensure that the other principles, family planning, education and skills development, to mention a few, will then work to reap a maximum dividend, not just a dividend, but a maximum dividend.
Yeah. I think governance is the number one factor on which everything relies. Creating a peaceful environment where people can develop their potential is very important, and having the goodwill for people in governance position, people in government and so forth and so on is key. So while we have a consensus at continental level on the trajectory that the continent should take for us to realize our common shared vision as set by the Agenda 2063, we need to put in place the conducive environment for that. And if we don't have that conducive environment to allow for education, to allow for access to healthcare, to allow for economic empowerment for the youth, then we will not have the development that we want. And very important, we have to stop the wars and silence the guns as soon as possible. Because if we are busy fighting wars, if we are busy taking care of humanitarian issues, then we have little resources left to take care of development issues. But if you have a peaceful environment and then we manage to establish policies and programs that help people or young people utilize their talent to generate income and take care of the younger ones and the older ones, then you reduce the dependency ratio. Young people generate more income that feeds into the national economy. So young people today are the key in terms of the population of the continent, are the key our country should invest in if we want to have a positive development trajectory along the years.
Okay. What is the progress so far of the AU roadmap for harnessing the DD?
Great. There has been great progress, and in terms, especially starting from 2017, when there was a huge momentum around the demographic dividend work. But it all did not start in 2017. Way before that, in 2013 in Abidjan, the ministries of finance acknowledged the need for the AU to put a focus on the demographic dividend. And the Agenda 2063 itself has identified 8 risk factors that may constitute an impediment to the realization of the demographic dividend, to the realization of our common and shared vision. And one of the risk factors for the realization of Agenda 2063 is the failure for the continent to harness the demographic dividend. So the discourse around the demographic dividend has started, and the continent has acknowledged the need to harness the demographic dividend for us to realize Agenda 2063. In 2016, the team was declared for 2017 and then launched in 2017. There was a renewed commitment. And from that renewed commitment, you'll see most member states now have developed a national roadmap for the DD, or have integrated the demographic dividend in their national plans and program for the youth. It's important because what it does is it shifts the way our countries invest, right? So if you have a structure of the population where majority of the population are made of children, then you need to invest a lot in education, you need to invest a lot in their health. When you have a situation where the majority of the population is in the working age, then you need to invest in economic empowerment for these people to generate income and so forth and so on. So the demographic dividend is reshaping the whole notions around how do we shape our investment in certain sector of the population to reap the maximum benefit. And I'm glad most countries are taking that up, and we have various presentations that were done at the conference. It is a good platform to share experiences on how countries are trying to take advantage of the demographic dividend and invest to the rightful places, which are the young people or the people of the continent.
So, on the flip side, what are some of the challenges that member countries are experiencing in implementing this roadmap?
The challenge is allocation of resources, because the demographic dividend identifies 4 key pillars and enabling factors. Among the pillars, you have employment and entrepreneurship that should be promoted, education and skills development, you have health and well-being, you have governance, rights and youth empowerment. But we know resources are scarce. So where do you invest your resources to reap the most benefits? And I think that's the key question that is cracking heads now. You see some people saying education is key, some people saying employment is the most important factor, some people are saying health is the most important factor, and so forth and so on. But from our side, or personally, what I think is it's a coordination approach. It's not a one silver bullet approach that will actually help us reap the demographic or harness the demographic dividend. We need to have a coordination among the sectors to know how does the education feed into the employment sector. How does the employment sector help educate people more and create a stable environment? How does it help the economy be developed? How does it contribute to the health sector? How does it help people have an insurance or a health coverage, right? So all that needs to be thought together in such a way that when you are educating people, you are not just doing education, but you are doing education for something. It can be education for health, it can be education for peace, it can be education for a good employment, it can be education for you to be innovative, it can be education for you to be able to create an enterprise. So the way we direct our education sector needs to be intentional based on the objective that we want to achieve. Yeah.
With those challenges mentioned, I think particularly you mentioned resource allocation, how then is the AU helping African countries get over this challenge?
Great. The AU is like a federation for all the member states, and one of the role of the AU is to help identify, to set priorities for investment. For example, when the member states came and agreed to have 2017 as the year for the demographic dividend, then it increased the momentum around the demographic dividend agenda. And most partners are going to countries to invest in demographic dividend programs. That's something that the AU can do. Bring more attention to the issue, and when you bring more attention to the issue, then there are more resources flowing into it. Domestically from member states and also from outside through foreign direct investment. So the main role of the AU is to do that and also help create accountability, right? Check with member states, where are we? What can we do? These are the indicators. Are we responding to these indicators, and how well are we doing so, right? So the demographic dividend is being infused, right, in assessment programs. And last year, we did what we call the Status of Africa Youth Report that use youth-related indicators to check how well are we doing against the demographic dividend roadmap and what else we need to do to further advance in that framework. And we've launched what we call the 1 Million by 2021 initiative, which was launched by the chairperson of the African Union Commission as his own initiative to increase support to issues of youth engagement, issues of youth employment, education, and so forth and so on. And you'll see that it drew more attention to those specific issues, and we are putting in place what we call country program acceleration strategy to help countries directly. The AU is at policy level, but you can mobilize resources, direct them to specific country programs, and help those programs scale up and reach the maximum young people they can reach.
Because scale is key.
Scaling up is key. When things, after an innovation, bright idea, a project has proven to be scalable, we need to scale it up to reach the maximum young people we can reach. If we leave it at the small scale as it is, then it won't help us achieve the objective that we want to achieve. And the same for youth entrepreneurship. You hear about a lot of startups. These startups need to grow at a certain point. And if they don't grow, then there's something missing. If you have micro enterprise, think of how it can grow at a certain point. And the AU is also, in that context, working on the continental free trade area. What does that do? That helps me as a young person to access a bigger market compared to my small country or smaller in size country that is Togo, right? So that's how AU is putting in place framework context that will help increase the size of our economy and help us harness the demographic demand.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.